Well, let's see, I was 10 years old, and we lived by the railroad tracks. There was a railroad track in front of the house and one behind the house. But behind the house was kind of like a shed where we kept tools and bikes and everything. It was only about no more than 7 feet high. And I used to climb up on that shed and jump off. And I had a girlfriend. Her name was Elaine McMaster. And we climbed, there was a cat up on the shed. And I said, let's go get the cat down. We climbed up on the shed. And once we got up there, I don't know what happened to the cat. I said, let's jump down. I said, I'll go first, you come after. I jumped first. I caught my foot on the drain pipe of the shed and flipped over and broke my arm. And I don't know what happened to her, but I went in crying to Mother. But as a result of that, my wrist was never perfect. I could never turn my wrist. It was never set right. Mm. And when I was 8, we lived in Sunnyside, Utah. We were only there a year. And we were going to come back to Salt Lake around March or April. And my mother said, do you want to get baptized in Sunnyside, or do you want to wait and get baptized in the tabernacle in Salt Lake? Because that's where we're doing baptisms. And I said, well, we'll never get back here again. I'll get baptized in Sunnyside. The church was a one-room square building, white building. The baptismal font was a hole in the ground. They opened up a door, and the ladder was against the wall. And so we climbed down on this ladder on the wall, and there were leaves. I remember leaves in the water. And I often wondered, why didn't my daddy baptize me? And I think because my daddy was a little stout, it was a small place, and probably just one of the elders or somebody in the ward baptized me. But I remember that so well, getting baptized in that one room, and with just that that was the baptism for that church.
Wow.
I remember my father, when he came to America, he was Koren Shahagopian. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to Americanize his name and changed it, and it got changed to Jacobs. When my mother married him, she lived next door to a couple that my mother thought the lady was so sweet and so nice, and her last name was Jacobs. Oh. And she thought, oh, if I could just marry someone as sweet and nice as that. Well, when Daddy came home and said, Mother, we've changed our name to Americanize it. It's going to be Jacobs, the same as the girl next door. And then she knew she had married the right man.
Wow.
I thought that was interesting.
That's very cool.
But my father was a world traveler at 19. He came to America by himself. He knew English, Armenian, Turkish, French, and Arabic. Wow. He could write and read them all. And he left and came to America. And my mother, they actually were both orphans. And when my father came here, his mother had died. And after he came here, his father died. His father was a medical doctor for the whole community. So he was well known. And my mother had lost her mother. She had a father, but they were both by themselves. And my father was 13 years older than my mother. But because my mother was large for her age, maybe at 14 she could have passed as 18 or 19, you know.
Yeah.
And when my mother saw my dad, he had the most gorgeous pearly white teeth. And on my mother's side, her folks smoked and they had yellow teeth. And so she was impressed by my father's beautiful pearly teeth. But we moved to 1240 South 8th West when I was 12. And the river was in the backyard. Actually, it was quite a ways away. And it was a beautiful sandy beach and the river. It isn't that way now. But anyway, it was a nice house. It was a nice house. And Next door was Harold B. Lee's brother, then another house, and then Harold B. Lee. And because we knew him, he married Max and I, Daddy and I. And they had the two daughters, Maureen and Helen. I took piano lessons from Maureen. And because I liked her so well, I named my daughter. That's where Maureen got her name.
Oh, I didn't
from
know that.
Harold B. Lee's daughter.
Wow.
And, well, Gary was always very attentive, getting back to Gary. Always very thoughtful, always thinking of us. Always calling and saying, I have some tickets, do you want to go to the Tabernacle Choir, you want to go to the concert? And I have some tickets, you want to go to... Oh, and he always appreciated Gary taking us to the Stadium of Fire. Mm-hmm. Always, and the awards dinner, the awards banquet.
Yeah.
I remember that. I miss those.
Yeah.
And we had an active life in Salt Lake when you were here. But you're halfway through. When I talk to you on the phone, you're real close by, so I appreciate that. It seems like you're not so far away. But I always tell everybody I have a son that's a mission president in Panama. That's it.
That's great. Thanks, Grandma.